In 2015 and 2016, Power Rangers Legacy was Bandai's golden child for product reveals, internet coverage, and convention exclusives. Coming off the back of a successful anniversary year, going into another strong dinosaur theme for 2 seasons, Bandai really impressed with their ability to balance both the demands of the main TV series line, being one of their most comprehensive to date, while still managing release after release of impressive new versions of their old toys for the collectors, plus throwing in a few new additions that we'd never ever had before. Starting on that very topic was a product that had started peaking out right at the end of 2014, but gained most traction at the start of 2015. Power Rangers, the movie, Legacy White Ranger Movie Edition Morpher. By this point it sort of just seemed like Bandai were happy to keep churning out new versions of the successful Legacy Morpher, as many as they could, but this was an interesting release for several reasons. One, it was the first Power Rangers the movie branded packaging we'd had in the Legacy line. That was exciting and different, and we had no idea where it would wind up at that point. But it was cool to see more nostalgic packaging reflecting the 90s, but in a brand new toy we'd never had back then. The finish of the movie Morpher was unlike the main series Morphers and actually had more in common with the shiny aspect of that original convention exclusive 24 karat gold plated green and white Ranger Morpher. It had a screen accurate chromed mirror finish, which was nice and felt substantially different to the main 2 off the shelf variants we'd had so far. Other accurate observations included not printing the Power Rangers text around the red circle, and the buckle holder was white instead of black, designed to match the Ranger color designation as was shown in the single morphin sequence of the 95 movie. The coins were shiny gold instead of weathered. We obviously had the variant of the Tigerzord coin, but for the first time, a ninja coin for Falconzord. It made for a complementary trio of morphers if you'd bought the other 2, and it gave us a hint for where they could be going in time with the Legacy line. Turns out White Ranger would be getting quite the run in the Legacy line this year, and after flying out the gate with Ultrazord, they of course kept up with something new. As soon as February 2015, we had our 4th Legacy Zord release, and it was Tommy's White Tigerzord. Nice to get a Zord for our 5-inch White Ranger figure, and that tied with the Tigerzord coin we'd gotten from the Tommy Oliver Morpher set. But at the time, this was a bit strange that they had started the Season 2 Zords with the 6 Ranger Zord, and left a gap of 12 months before going back and doing the chronologically earlier Thunder Megazord. Regardless, this was an impressive release, one that would expose quite how bricky and 90s the original one now appeared. The more slender joints, posable tiger legs, and in warrior mode, more proportionate legs and gap between them meant they impressed yet again. They were fully in the no-sticker era, and Tigerzord was a solid release that showed what the Legacy line could do effectively. In terms of combinations, well, the box did try to placate us at the time by suggesting we use our 2013 Legacy Dino Megazord to bodge job a Dino Mega Tigerzord, Zord Builder incarnation. You absolutely can, but should you? Probably not, no. Also alongside Tigerzord came the next full-size roleplay weapon after Dragon Dagger, Saba, the talking tiger Saber. This one was very special to me, as the kid-size one from the 90s was probably my favourite weapon of all time back then. So to have a full-size version with sleek, careful use of die-cast and new recordings of Tony Oliver doing lines for it,
Activate the Tigerzord!
This was chef's kiss Legacy line stuff. In reality, it's also probably the most perilous to handle because the weight of it and the flimsy design of the join between the handle and the rest of the sword. In short, this thing makes creaking sounds like it's under pressure from itself, but it is a beautiful display piece, right down to the extending blade that mimics the original and hidden Power Rangers theme song, because yeah, they just love doing that. While the original had a simple mouth opening gimmick, this one was motorized to sync with the audio being spoken. Yes, it was a bit noisy, but honestly, with no point of comparison at this level of detail, this was easy to be impressed by.
Oh, that was most impressive!
It also looked huge next to both the original Saba and the Legacy Dragon Dagger, which was itself a massive increase on the original. I would actually get this and the White Ranger movie Morpher at the Toys R Us Times Square location, right as it was closing at the end of 2015, and the joy I felt in that moment being able to buy these products which you could only have dreamed of existing was incredible. And by April 2015, some had already managed to complete both waves of the second series of 5-inch legacy action figures, this time designed after the 1995 movie suit designs. I cannot express how groundbreaking this was at the time. You guys, we had never got decent figures of the movie suits. Ever. It took 20 years. The closest I came as a kid were the tiny non-posable figures that were hidden inside Kellogg's Frosties cereal. I know over in America, McDonald's did a cool set of Zords with figures, but come on, they do look pretty bootleg. Almost based on the cartoon artwork of Power Rangers at the time, the ones with the giant chest medallions. And Bandai themselves had only made shiny chromed remolds of the regular action figures with the auto-morphin feature removed back then. So we were weirdly blocked from ever getting what we'd wanted back then. The holy trinity of all Power Ranger toy lines, the figures, the Morpher and Megazord, were all cribbed off their original Super Sentai designs instead. In fact, Morphers were skipped completely back then. Sans a McDonald's version. We didn't even get the Ninja coins, just weirdly recolored versions of the regular Power coins with the action figures. It was a weird time. So to go from all those misses to these were night and day improvements, long overdue upgrades. Add to that they had continued the nostalgic triangular box era of packaging and even developed these figures beyond the classic on-the-shelf action hero designs by introducing ball-jointed heads, softer hands with wrist articulation, and pivoting feet. These felt much more premium than the ones deemed as being for children, even though they scaled perfectly alongside them. They even included accessories with the relevant Rangers that were exclusive to the film. So Kimberly had her Pterodactyl Thunder Whip, Billy had his Stego Stinger, Rocky had his Power Scope alternative helmet, and Aisha had her Power Beams alternative helmet. They also had all the sidearms you would expect, Tommy with the most beautifully detailed action figure version of Saba, and the Core 5 Rangers with the holstered mode of the movie Blade Blaster. They didn't even use these in the film, a shame really, as I bet we would have gotten the bladed or blaster modes if they had. They even included a villain as they had done with the series versions. This time we got Ivan Ooze, and it was another really nicely done figure with the draped robe tails on his arms and the wand flute alt hand he would use to destroy the command center with. This was probably the closest we would ever get to a Lightning Collection level of deep cut Easter egg style accessories before Lightning Collection was ever a thing. Yeah, it was one strong set of figures that looked shiny, were more posable than we'd been used to, and scaled perfectly with all your existing action heroes. We didn't know it at the time, but this was the end of the legacy 5-inch action figures. But wow, what a way to go out. San Diego Comic-Con in July 2016 gave Bandai the platform to reveal their next two legacy products, and the MMPR series branding would return for both. We would get our next roleplay weapon, and you might have thought, surely the Power Sword, to give us the equivalent weapon of Tommy's two MMPR forms, but nope, this time it was the Legacy Blade Blaster. It kind of made sense as it gave us something more compact that applied to all core Rangers, and wouldn't need to be as big or expensive as a Power Sword surely would. It was basically more shelf and retail friendly for Toys R Us to stock. The new Blade Blaster was much more screen accurate than the original version, well in Power Rangers terms rather than Zyuranger actually, with the former emblazoned across the barrel. It had a few hints of diecast, nicely paint detailed features, a spring out blade, and sounds exclusive to the separate blade and blaster modes, which was a really nice touch. It did actually scale quite comparatively with the original 90s version, which was quite a change to what we had been getting in the Legacy line. Yeah, Blade Blaster was a good display item, but lacked the heft and, I guess, ethereal presence of the Dragon Dagger and Saba that preceded it. Ironically, had this come out in the first year of the line, I think it would have been greeted much more enthusiastically. They also missed the opportunity to bundle it with the Legacy Power Morpher as a nod to the original Gun/Sword set, but hey, getting it at all was a nice surprise. If you'd been keeping up with the store releases, you also now had 3 Morphers and 3 weapons, one to represent Red, Green and White Ranger. The other San Diego Comic-Con reveal was easily the most eagerly anticipated. Now it would still be a long 7 months before the shelf release, but July 2016 gave us our first look at the prototype for Legacy Thunder Megazord. Reaction was palpable. This thing was the classiest looking Megazord to date. Ignoring the strings holding the thing up, more on that in a sec, this took definite inspiration from the screen, as all of the Legacy Zords had done. Gone was toning down the green accents of the Lionzord, and that hip-mounted sword had a gold linked chain just like it did in the show. The only information that dampened enthusiasm for this total win was the $200 price tag. Fortunately, you could get it on Amazon and with a discount, but yeah, being an adult fan of collector-grade remakes of kids' toys was getting to be quite an expensive endeavour. Releasing a year after Tigerzord and nearly 3 whole years after the Dino Megazord, the Season 2 Thunder Megazord arrived all in one box. There was speculation about whether Red Dragon would be sold separately, as it had been back in the day, and people were stunned by the detail on these things. Sparing diecast use did not damper the general love for this thing, but there were some issues. The main thing were the Red Dragon gaining all this advanced articulation, but having absolutely no posability with which to do anything with it. When they'd literally just got this right with the Legacy Dragonzord tail, it was a great shame to see this occur. The weight of the lion arms in Megazord mode on the fairly loose arm joints for the Red Dragon Warrior mode, yeah, that's something else that's certainly gotten worse over time. There was also a weight tipping issue. Once you raised the arm, the Megazord would buckle forwards. While it didn't fall over, it was really obvious and unlike the original. Bandai responded. They managed to do us a solid. They would engineer old versions of the silver knee covers, which added squares, which used force to stay upright, basically angled in, tipped more towards the robot. So the forces kind of counterbalanced, and these new covers stopped the tipping, or at least hid it. It was admittedly quite a novel solution, one that you only needed to contact Bandai for, and you got free replacement parts sent out in the post. To this day, I think this is one of the most consumer-focused things they ever did. A simple, relatively cheap fix for a problem that tore down a $200 toy. If you were bothered, you asked for the pieces, and you got them. It was a nice bit of communication between the brand and the fan base that worked out for everyone. There was one problem though that wasn't getting fixed by additional parts. In fact, additional parts was part of the problem, the Mega Tigerzord combination. Some of you will remember my tirade on this on one of my earliest videos on the top Zord builder compromisers. Having tried to pitch us on the Dino Mega Tigerzord, we finally had all 5 Thunderzords required for the true Megazord combination, and yet Bandai had made some changes to the Tigerzord to incorporate the Dinozords that they had stupidly stuck with for the Thunder Megazord integration. And I think maybe they weren't fully planning the releases together properly, because what happened once you added the Griffin, Unicorn, Firebird and Lionzords was nothing short of abhorrent and clinically anti-Power Rangers. Instead of transforming together, the toys imitated combination. There's a big difference, and although the eventual visual is fine for the most part, the way you get to it would fly in the face of genuine combination. Legacy Mega Tigerzord was an unfortunate byproduct of Bandai America's relative inexperience of creating cross-compatible toys. Bandai Japan had it down. Bandai America flourished with one-offs. They just didn't have the right people, or possibly the right time required to ensure the right interplay between their standalone toy releases. You could come down on this that they ensured each product looked great by itself, and they prioritised that without compromising the look of it, that there being any combination potential at all was just an added bonus. But remember that this is what we had grown up on, and in every other aspect, they were smashing these designs all over. But yeah, the math and measurement involved in creating toys that work together and alone was obviously more of a tricky thing to get right. Also bizarrely, in February 2016, Legacy Falconzord was released. So we had Tigerzord when we only had the Season 1 Megazord, and now that was a pattern, as we had another Tommy White Ranger Zord without having the actual Megazord it was meant for. At $80, this one felt a bit pricey for what it was and what it did, but it was there to sell us on the idea of the future. Falconzord had clips which hinted at where it was going to go, including lift-up flaps to accommodate an eventual Legacy Shogun Megazord formation. And so it kind of felt justified that it was once again based on the TV show version of the Zord and not on the weird CGI movie design, despite being sold in yet another MMPR the Movie style box. Given the accuracy of the preceding MMPR movie toys, this was a bit of a surprise. Of course, the speculative wait would start again in earnest for the next Megazord release, which was surely going to be the Ninja Megazord. And I guess Bandai wanted us to stop asking for Legacy Tour the Shuttlezord by just skipping ahead. By the summer of 2016, Bandai were getting into batched items, so multiple Legacy products coming in the same wave at the same time with only minor aesthetic and occasional electronic differences between them. The Communicator was a long sought after item for the Power Rangers fanbase, imitated to great effect by third parties. We'd never had a realistic version of one, just a few Happy Meal style ones. So to get both the regular Core 5 and the Tommy Oliver editions together was a nice surprise, and something you just had to have both of. With different sounds in each release with sound alike Zordon and Alphas,
Power Rangers, I need you at the command center immediately.
the Communicator was another unexpected, long-desired product that expanded the reach of physical Power Ranger items you'd basically only ever seen on screen. You realise how many unique items the show had, and Communicator was definitely one of them. The coloured bands could be popped out to represent any Ranger colour, and it was yet another cool extension to our burgeoning roleplay collections.
Tommy, you don't have enough power to continue. Teleport back immediately.
Summer 2016 would also keep the movie line going with 3 more movie edition Power Morphers for red, blue and pink. Foolishly this time they forgot to include ninja coins and just did the gold version of the dino coins and a dino tribal coin, which was actually more relevant to season 1 than the movie. Yeah, details were really starting to slip at this point. You also now had 4 of the 6 movie morphers. Unfortunately, we would never get the final 2. Yellow and black were abandoned. Who knows how far they got down the production process. I guess even back then, the world was not ready to buy a Morpher for each core Ranger, not at $60 each. You're probably getting that between this and the Falconzord, a lot of the Legacy line at this time was being banked on trust. The trust that you would get there in the end. And as we would go on to see both from Bandai and eventually Hasbro, it's not always as cut and dry as your patience being rewarded. However, in October 2016, just a tiny 8 months after Falconzord and Thunder Megazord, we would get our Season 3, though again movie box, Legacy Ninja Megazord. This was our third 5-Zord combiner overall, so we now had a Megazord to represent each of the 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin with. It seemed like Bandai had heard the cost criticisms levied against Thunder Megazord and had managed to get this one down to a nimble $100. Yep, more than the original Legacy Megazord had cost, but remember, this had painted details on each Zord, unlike the sticker sheet that had accompanied that first release. This one quite closely followed the design of the original, with the sleek slimness of modern Bandai America design, plus a few novel features that added more playability, like the wolf having, I guess, knee joints, the ape with elbow joints and now separating legs, and painted swords. No gold plastic syndrome would occur here. The frog had an opening mouth. The diecast was probably less than ever, but that didn't truly matter, and the places they had chosen to use it were smart. However, on its own, this Megazord had one slight issue. The bear's hind legs, which became the arm ports for ape and wolf, was super loose, meaning just raising or posing the arm pushed the whole part back. The only way to stop it was to hold it in place with one hand while ratcheting the arm up with the other. Some people suggested you could fix this by tightening the screw, but I tried this and had absolutely no luck. The problem was only exacerbated by bringing in your Falconzord, where knocking the bare hind leg backwards would then detach that Zord as well. Yeah, if you've been paying attention, you'll have spotted the issue here. Bandai America could not do combinations very well. The Falconzord's original plastic tab method had been changed to some weak pins on the Bearzord that lightly nudged in at the Falconzord's body. That was it. That was how your $80 heavily die-cast backpack was meant to stay attached. Good luck mimicking any sort of flying motion with this thing. It was a recipe for disaster. I'd been hoping for a magnetic connection, which, while still wouldn't have attached brilliantly, at least could have felt cooler. Bandai had nothing to say on this one, unfortunately, and I actually would turn to an enthusiast online who sold me this die-cast metal part. Sure, it doesn't look much, but press it into the screw holes visible on both the Falcon and Bearzords and you've created a physics force fix for both problems of the Falconzord barely attaching and the Apezord moving the bear. How they came up with this, I can only bow to their supremacy. It is the most useful third-party accessory I've ever bought. It actually makes me forget most of the time what an own goal Bandai made with these two, and unfortunately, while we didn't know it at the time, that was it for the Legacy Zord collection. The fall of 2016 also gave us another brand new category of Legacy and indeed Power Rangers product, the Red Ranger helmet. Unlike the previous Mask Collection release, this was full size and wearable for adults. It also had a nice display stand if that was more your thing. The helmet had lockable clips which mimicked the style seen in the TV series. The detail was impressive. This was such an interesting release because we'd been getting all this stuff like weapons and roleplay and figures and Zords, and now we had this huge helmet that kind of tied it all together. The first leader of Power Rangers, the Ranger helmet that had, just a few years earlier, been used as the base for the Shout Factory 20-season DVD box set, could now be bought at Toys R Us and form a centerpiece for your Legacy collection. The helmet was a very cool idea to get into. Yes, it was quite large, though again it wasn't something we had much comparison point on. Sure, there were helmet makers out there, but this was a fraction of the price because of being a mass market item. Legacy Red Ranger helmet also introduced a brand new box design, taking us away from the green series and black movie shades that we've been getting to date, and seemed to imply that the Legacy line was going to be continuing, and who knew how many helmets we had ahead of us. Bandai just really got what fans wanted at that time, and seemed intent on pushing it out. The Legacy line was truly at peak in 2015 and 2016, at the height of its power. Bandai obviously used conventions as a focus point for major news from the Legacy line. They even used them to distribute convention exclusive black and gold versions of some of the regular off-the-shelf products. SDCC 2014 had the Dragon Dagger, 2015 would go on to get Saba, and 2016 got the Blade Blaster. All three came in nicer packaging and were made in very limited quantities. I didn't buy any because I just wanted screen accurate, but if you were all about these special editions, they were very pretty and hard to find pickups. And how about the White Ranger collection you now had between your two 5-inch figures, Tigerzord, Falconzord, Saba, and TV and movie Morphers and coins and Communicator? Honestly, the one thing missing was a full-size White Ranger helmet, but we would actually have to wait for Hasbro to fill that void years down the line. I remember naively feeling like these Power Rangers Legacy glory days were going to last forever somehow, despite most of my wish list of greatest wants gradually getting checked off. But unfortunately, as we've seen with Power Rangers and indeed post Mighty Morphin life time and again, that doesn't usually happen. So join me in the final part of my Legacy line trilogy where we'll be discussing what happened at the end of the line. Until then, please share your memories of Power Rangers Legacy. Did you have this stuff on release? Have you bought it later? Did the Lightning Collection make you sell any of it off? Do let me know. Thanks as ever to my supporters over on Patreon. I'm adding a bit of a seasonal treat alongside this for you. It's a review of the old Food Fight soundbook. I used to love those things. And so until the next time, see you later.